Protests started after Officer Darren Wilson shot Michael Brown after the shooting death of black teenager Michael Brown by white police officer Darren Wilson last year.
18-year-old Michael Brown by a police officer.
As we understand the national and international response to Ferguson, that have made clear that this problem is not unique to St. Louis, it is nonetheless our reality.
I was basically having fun that day. It was until I looked on the news and I found out that a guy like around my grandma's neighborhood was shot and killed by a police officer. I was so upset. I was just like, is this really what's going on in the world right now?
I was basically in my room and I actually found out about it from Instagram first. Next thing you know, I was getting phone calls, I was getting text messages, and it was going through group chats, and it was going through Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat. I saw it, I really actually didn't think anything of it because it happened so often. And so what I did was I kept seeing pictures of Mike laying in the street.
You could hear police like just going back and forth. It was scary. You didn't know what was going to happen, especially when you live down the street. But I just felt like an overwhelming amount of sadness.
If I remember correctly, I was at home and I was watching the news. It hurt so bad, it just brought us to tears. Here is this young man who could just been so much, now gone.
After I saw what happened, I was just like, couldn't he have solved this a different way?
And when I actually found out the backstory of it, and how he was there for 4 hours, it really made me so upset. Because we were outraged at what had just occurred, and we realized that it wasn't going to be the last time, and that's what made us the most upset.
That very well could be my little brother, it could be my son, it could be the kids here at St. John's. It's not far from where a lot of our children at the church actually live. It could have been any of them. The curriculum for the teenagers shut down. But the first step was to just give them a space where they can say, this is how I feel. There is no judgment, there is no right or wrong. These are your feelings, they are valid. If you're angry, I understand why.
Reverend Herbert would always talk to us, ask us how we're doing about it, and just like, we would always tell him how we felt about the Michael Brown situation, especially considering that could have been one of us.
We changed the curriculum because we knew that the kids were going to have some questions like, why would this happen? How could this happen? Because quite frankly, we're, like even as teachers, we're frustrated. We're dealing with this grief of this young one who has passed on.
The people who were just coming through, taking things, I didn't feel like they really knew the situation and they were just taking advantage of it.
We are not supposed to be hurting people because Jesus would not hurt people. What he did was he brought power to himself because he said, I'm gonna be the bigger person. And that's what we are supposed to do in Ferguson.
Whenever they talk about protesting, they may say, oh, they're out there doing violent things, but there are peaceful people trying to change things.
When we went out to protest, we had about 2 or 3 of our youth who were able to come. Just having them there and seeing, like for me personally, processing everything that's going on and seeing them march, like I really began to cry. And I would tell them, don't forget this.
You had everybody coming together, fighting for what was right. Not because of skin tone, not because of oppression, but because we are human. And in that march, I felt hope.
I think sometimes we get wrapped in our internal dialogue, and that causes the fear of other people, where doing that, you might have missed out on your best friend for life. You might have missed out on your spouse. You might have missed out on a person who you may do business with. I think fear is the root of prejudice.
I really don't understand why people have so much hatred in their hearts to just talk and treat other people like they're nothing.
this could possibly change if the people who are doing this in the majority stop seeing the minority as the inferior, because we're all human beings together, so that's when things will change.
But since this has happened, like the community of this bigger world has come together. And so it's just like, it's like getting to know a neighbor. Like you finally get to know who your neighbor really is. So when you get to know your neighbor, you get to not see the person as so much as their culture, but as a human being.
I don't know what's holding us back. Because the only thing that can be holding us back is ourselves. Because as soon as we let that go, nothing can stop us. We're all good people. We all have one thing in common. We're God's children. And if God can love us, what's wrong with us loving each other?
Seeing people from so many walks of life, being with people from so many backgrounds, looks like the community that Jesus spoke of. Looks like the community that Jesus was with. I think we have to be intentional to make sure that we do the same. Does our organizations, does our churches, does it look, are there people from different backgrounds, does it look like Jesus? I begin to see kids with passion about this, with fire, with some anger about this, ready to even mobilize. What is it that I can do? How is it that I can share this with my friends? How is it that we can do things here within the church and share it?
We were very intentional to create the space and to let them come up with ways of engaging.
My youth group empowered me on this situation by giving me the correct ideas that I can use to go out into the communities and help other people that may be in need of knowledge for the situation or maybe in need of what to do in the same situation.
I hear more intentionality. Even in their conversation with one another and how they are speaking or engaging with one another is different. They have a perspective that I think we need to hear, and it needs to be, how can we support you, as opposed to saying, like, this is what we want you to go and do.
Teenagers are leading the movement. We are the movement. Okay, you know, adults, they have jobs, they have places to be, you know, they have kids to care for. They don't have time to be in the streets. It's the teens that are in the streets. Basically, we are the people who are going to change this world.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to be a part of that.